What's up, Poker YouTube? Welcome back to another How to Beat Live Low Stakes Poker video. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a hand that was played on one of the recent Lodge streams. Looks like their 5-10 game. So let's go ahead and take a look at this hand. It's a pretty simple one. It's not honestly overly exciting, but there are a lot of good fundamental things we can go over that, for example, this is just a good illustration of the kind of analysis you'll get over at archcitypoker.com, where I actually plan on taking a lot of this footage and cutting it up into a course where we basically do a session review. So I'm gonna give you guys on YouTube, honestly, a little sneak peek into that with one little free video. So, and let me actually hit the mute button here. So in the hijack, looks like CryptoMax raises to 150 with pocket threes. Now, they might have a straddle on. I'm not 100% sure because it is a 5-10, so that seems really large. Maybe there's a 3-bet, but I didn't see another raise, so we'll pay attention here, but there might be some kind of straddle on. And they're playing, they're not super deep for a 5-10, but anyway, so Dr. J, it looks like in the cutoff is going to flat with Queen Jack offsuit. That's going to be a mistake. We are either wanting to, I guess we would say occasionally 3-bet if we think max is wide enough. Otherwise, we just want to fold because really you're just inviting in other hands that cut into your equity. Offsuit broadways are not going to play very well multi-way, especially in deeper games. So that's going to be a mistake. Looks like, I guess there might have been multiple, there's a straddle and then a third blind maybe. Big Daddy Chaz calls in the gun straddle with 7-5 suited. I mean, if you have the right price, it's okay. It's obviously pretty speculative. 10-9 offsuit, not great in this scenario either. So, and yes, guys, with the stream games, you're going to get looser pre-flop play. You just are. But we can still analyze the footage and the lines that are taken, the sizings, just as we would if these guys were playing a little bit more sound pre-flop. All right, so Jack 5-7, Jack 7-5, rainbow, if you will. Get a couple checks from the players out of position. Big Daddy Chaz here with the gun straddle. He does flop bottom two. I don't think there's really, I don't know. It's interesting. You could potentially, as an exploit, argue that he does lead, just because it's a board that might not get stabbed all that often, but he does have two players in position on him, especially a player in max that is a little bit more aggro. So yeah, he could definitely go for check raise here. The other thing is there's 625 in the pot. Big Daddy Chaz only with effective SPR of roughly 3, and it's actually a little bit smaller with Dr. J and Mark and chips here. So going for check jam is a pretty viable strategy. I think that's what he's likely planning to do here. Max is going to check, and it gets checked to Dr. J in the cutoff with top pair, third kicker. So in this spot, I understand that his SPR is essentially 3. The thing is, guys, if you're heads up, I think you can definitely feel confidently committed with top pair, all right kicker here. When you are 4 ways, though, your threshold for the type of hand as far as value or just equity wise that you want to be able to get in here at a minimum needs to increase quite a bit. I think ace jack is totally fine. King jack is probably okay in a looser environment, but this is a situation where I'm not saying he necessarily shouldn't bet. I think that though with your threshold here, if you're gonna bet what I would consider a larger sizing multi-way would be at least half pot, then I think he needs to increase the floor for the type of hand that he's going to bet for value here. And I do think at least King Jack, maybe even arguably Ace Jack 4 ways would be your worst hand that you're going to value bet at this point. The other thing we can do, and this works really well in live low stakes games, is yes, we are telling you guys a lot of times on the static boards that you can just go really large if you're heads up. You can even overbet some of the time and just use a pretty polar strategy where you are using, let's say, like king jack or better if you are up against a limp caller and you think they can't have a lot of ace jack. Basically, whatever you think the best top pair that you can have that your opponent can't have, that's the bottom of your value range, and then everything better than that, we're just going to bet really large. You would include perhaps like some draws here as well. It could be your open enders, could be your gutters. You may even use like some pair blockers that function as like set or two pairs blockers, like 7x hands, 5x hands, if you are trying to get them to fold maybe like 10s through 8s, if you will. But when you're four ways like this, let's just see, because he is going to bet here, it looks like. So he bets 350 into 625, so he bets more than half pot, and I do think that's a mistake. I think he's better off betting ace jack or better here, and then maybe like some of the high equity draws, like whether he does have a hand like 9-8 suited, 8-6 suited, if he ends up having that somehow. But besides that, I think everything else wants to do a good bit of checking, just because if you do get action, you're likely in against a range that has you in not the greatest of shape. What you can do, and I was alluding to this earlier, is you can size down. In this situation, multi-way, you're going to apply a lot of pressure onto the three players that you have position on. Max, being the preflop aggressor, opted to check, so he likely doesn't have as many of the value combos he could have. If he's known as like a pretty good player, then he would check with some good hands there. But really, it's the blinds that you're going to start to apply a lot of pressure onto. And, you know, if you bet small here, like a lot of times you're still going to apply an incredible amount of pressure on hands like even like ace 7, 7-6 suited, pocket 6s, pocket 8s, because not only do they have to worry about your bet, but they still have to worry about the players that are still in the hand besides Dr. J here. They have to worry about future streets and likely the fact that Dr. J probably isn't going to bet this spot with this low of an SPR and not follow up on a lot of turns. So I think that into 625, honestly, like I think something like 100 or 120 would have functioned a lot better. It probably accomplishes a lot of the same thing. Like you're still getting value, but you are targeting the portion of each of these players' ranges that you're doing all right against with Queen Jack. You're not sizing up here. And yes, this is sizing up to me. Like if a lot of you guys are betting closer to pot in these types of scenarios, you need to be, again, really careful about the type of hand that you're using, because Queen Jack heads up is going to be much stronger than it is four ways. So I do think he makes a big mistake here, and it's likely going to cost him, because I would imagine Chaz is only going to ever check jam here. I don't think calling makes any sense. Like your opponent clearly likes their hand. He bets more than half pot in a four-way field with a low SPR. It's very often a jack. If not that, he might feel comfortable betting like 10s or 9s, but if he does have a jack, you're going to likely stack him. If he doesn't, you're going to fold out a good amount of equity, pick up a nice pot. I think out of position, you just want to see all 5 here with a low SPR. So yeah, he quickly puts in the blacks to go all in. And I think Dr. J knows that this is not the greatest spot, but he has committed himself with his top pair third kicker. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I think Dr. J in that spot, if you guys end up in that kind of situation, kind of a static board, lower SPR, even if it's a higher SPR, especially if it's a higher SPR, you want to err on the side of smaller bets to target kind of like the middling to weaker portions of their range. You can still get them to fold some hands that have some equity against you. Let's say Max, for example, had ace-king instead of 3s. You might get ace-king to fold there, and that's a great result. But if you start sizing up in these four-way spots on these kind of boards, you're really asking for it. Like you're asking for a range that is putting a hand like Queen Jack in a compromised situation for sure. King on the turn. And deuce on the river. So Big Daddy Chaz will take down the hand. But yeah, like I said, not the most exciting hand, guys, but I think there's a lot of good going on here. You can see clearly the mistake that I think Dr. J made. Like I said, he can bet. I just think betting smaller here makes a lot more sense. If he has ace jack or better, four ways there, I think that's a spot where he can size up more, a little more than half pot if he wants. But I think either sizing down or even considering check back with Queen Jack there is a totally fine proposition, but I would lean towards the small bet there, more exploitively speaking. And I do think Big Daddy Chaz played it pretty well. It's a good spot to go for check jam with a low SPR there. So if you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and let me know. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, visit us over at archcitypoker.com, where you will get plenty more analysis like this of streams like the Lodge. So yeah, see you guys in the next video. Thanks.